Coming up on Bridge City News, Halo Air Ambulance Service is in financial dire straits. We hear from the group's CEO about a plan to save the life-saving organization. The Better Business Bureau has a warning when it comes to taking Facebook quizzes. We will explain. And Alberta Premier Jason Kenney announced that millions of free masks will be handed out to Albertans in the fight against COVID-19.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The province announced today that there were only 50 new cases of COVID-19, but sadly, also 4 new deaths. The new confirmed cases include 1 in Lethbridge and 1 in Cardston County. Alberta Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Henshaw, says Alberta is also increasing maximum gatherings to 50 people, just in time for the Victoria Day long weekend.
Alberta's relaunch strategy recognizes the importance of the outdoors and recreation for Albertans' sense of well-being, while also recommending limiting non-essential travel outside the province at this time. With that in mind, I am pleased to announce that effective today, outdoor gathering limits are being increased to a maximum of 50 people, no matter where you live, as long as physical distancing of at least 2 meters is being maintained between different households.
Halo Air Ambulance is in financial trouble. The life-saving mission does not receive funding from the province like other air ambulance services. BCN's Ainsley O'Reilly explains the impact the organization has on Southern Albertans and the urgency for funding right now.
Without receiving immediate assistance, Halo will be forced to scale back to just 1 single-engine helicopter effective June 1st and forced to shut down all operations starting July 1st. Halo is deeply rooted throughout Southern Alberta's rural communities, and CEO Paul Carolyn says that receiving funding is a matter of life or death.
It definitely hits well above its weight class when it comes to those situations where it's life or death. And when we get dispatched, we assume that it is going to make the difference in whether or not someone lives or dies.
$250,000 a month for 6 months is Halo's request. In a release from the provincial government, Steve Buick, press secretary to the Minister of Health, stated, "We recognize the importance of effective air ambulance service for the province. AHS provides fee-for-service payments in addition to a $1 million capital grant provided last year. We have replied to Halo's letter and are fast-tracking a review of province-wide helicopter ambulance services." The organization serves Southern Alberta in its entirety, including one man whose life was saved in large part due to a Halo rescue.
Kind of a dual disaster, but I mean, luckily I was, rescued pretty fast. I've got some ailments, but they said that they were, unbelievable in the short amount of time.
Halo stays afloat by generous donors and community-funded initiatives. Its CEO wants to keep that going.
We don't want to be a fully funded government program. We want the connection to the community. We want the calf sales and the golf tournaments and the dinners and things like that, because it's almost more important to us to be that connected to our communities. So we want the foundation to always have a responsibility to do their part. And if we get the government to do their part, it would be a partnership that would serve this part of the province very, very effectively and very efficiently for a long time.
For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
Lethbridge police made a large drug bust yesterday, seizing $60,000 worth of fentanyl. The bust occurred at an Airbnb home along the 1600 block of 23rd Street South. After obtaining a search warrant, police took in around 300 grams of fentanyl and more than $9,400 in cash. 31-year-old Andreas Connors and 32-year-old Robert Watt of Calgary face various drug-related charges and will appear in court on July 24th. Whether it's in hospitals or airports, there's nothing quite like a therapy dog to help people feel at ease during their time of need. BCN's Loris Alexander spoke with the Lethbridge Corridor Victim Services about the importance of puppy love.
Marley and Madison are absolutely silent advocates.
Meet Madison and Marley, the Labradors that work closely with victims in the wake of trauma and violent crimes.
At the farmer's market, and we had Madison with us. And we had a person who had come up to Madison, and she was very upset. And Madison went right into licking and really comforting this lady. And when I talked to her friend, I said to her, I said, is there something going on? And she said, yeah. She said she just left her husband this morning and she's very upset.
Marley's the newest addition to the tag team, assisting Madison in order to alleviate her workload as she prepares for retirement.
Madison is affectionately known as the mama dog. She is a caregiver. She was a breeder for Dogs with Wings. She gave them 3 lovely litters. She just has this innate ability to know, to care, and give love and affection. That's why we should say she really takes on the world. Marley is more fun and energetic. She would be more known as that party girl.
Madison is the mama dog, and that's her personality to a T. She always makes sure that everybody is doing well and okay, vest or no vest. I feel like that's always her job. She's always making sure everybody's okay and happy. And Marley is like the teenager. They're very much different ages.
Marley's in good hands, still learning the ropes as Madison takes the lead. For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
With the Alberta government's Phase 1 relaunch, many food businesses in Lethbridge are starting to open up their dining rooms for their restaurants. As Micah Quinn explains, for some establishments, they're waiting to see how their competitors are doing before they decide to reopen their eat-in areas.
Dylan's Piggyback Poutineery has kept their dine-in area closed, opting to just stay with delivery and takeout services.
Logistically and risk-wise, we've chosen not to do dine-in. Logistically, it's far too hard in here, and risk-wise, it's unnecessary risk. If we're doing what we're doing and that's working well for us, there's no reason for us to go that extra step right now.
Toth says the store has kept busy and that people are still buying local, even during COVID-19.
We've been around for 6 years. We've planned on continuing being around for much longer. Once we're able to see people, it'll be completely different. I think it seems to me that people are really set now about local business. I anticipate that's going to continue on.
Sarah Figueroa owns Tacos Made in Mexico with her husband, Gerardo, and they are staying with takeout and delivery as well.
We look the news and we say, well, it's better for everyone to stop dinner here, and we start to say the customer, you can come for pick it up or delivery or use other companies for delivery.
Figueroa says customers had an issue with social distancing and they had to put up signs.
Clients don't respect the social distance, and we have a problem with that, and I think, well, it's better to put notice for respect the rules, and we fixed here for that.
Dylan's Piggyback Poutineery and Tacos Made in Mexico both say they will continue to be open and talk to other restaurants to see how they are doing before they reopen their dining rooms. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Cardston's Ty Lewis is the very first player to be signed by the Lethbridge College Kodiaks men's basketball team this offseason. His former coach, Ken McMurray, who will be coaching the women's team this season, was impressed with Lewis's work ethic.
When you coach kids who have passion already, you really don't have to prod them much. You just have to tell them what to do, and you know they're going to give 110% because they like to compete and win so much. And it just seemed like Ty had that kind of drive. He just has a passion to be great. And, you know, when he was in grade 10, he was one of those kids that just worked his tail off. He was always in the gym after hours, and just spent a lot of time working on his craft. And so, yeah, he's been a fun kid to coach.
Now, the future of both men's and women's basketball seasons remains up in the air due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Lethbridge East MLA Nathan Newdorf has a new appointment. Newdorf will chair the Student Transportation Task Force. He says there will be challenges ahead to come up with new models for more cost-efficient, safe, and reliable busing for families in our province. He says the needs are quite different between rural and urban transportation.
Student transportation is a very important issue to many parents and students, as well as school boards across the province. Urban needs are very different than rural needs. where urban is mostly concerned with safety and the transporting of their children who are far away from school to those schools appropriate manners. And rural, their challenges would be more on how much time would their child be spending on a bus. Over 40 minutes, over an hour. Those are very, very long times, particularly for younger children. Making sure that we come up with a solution that manages all of these different areas for different regions in an effective and safe way, as well as accounting for cost, is forefront for many parents across our province.
Neudorf says he hopes to meet the deadline of August 31st to bring back recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year, but noted that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it may take a little more time. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says 40 million masks will be handed out to Albertans as part of a public mask program. He says he expects to receive the non-medical masks in a couple of weeks and then will provide more information of when the program will be ready to launch. Kenney says the masks are for people who want to use them while grocery shopping or taking public transit. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dean Henshaw, said a recommendation is for Albertans to wear a mask if they're going somewhere where they will be within 2 meters of another person. Parks Canada sent out a reminder that visitor services and vehicle access is still suspended to Waterton Lakes National Park during the Victoria Day long weekend. All services, including the campgrounds, visitor center, parking lots, and picnic shelters, remain closed. All interpretive activities remain suspended because of COVID-19 until further notice. Spokesperson John Stacer says they're hoping for a gradual reopening on some outdoor locations in select national parks by June 1st. BC Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry says people will not be seeing packed trains and buses in the near future. She suggests people find alternative ways to get to work, including walking, biking, or even running.
In terms of transportation, public transportation, yes, obviously we are concerned, and we have been working with the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure and TransLink across BC, transportation structures across BC, because we do need to continue to put in those distancing measures that protect us in our public transit system. As you know, public transit has been open and running throughout this whole phase one that we've been through our pandemic so far, because it is an essential service for many people. It is their means of getting to work, and we need to continue that. So yes, we are working through this next phase to make sure we have the right things in place to protect people who work in the transit system and to ensure we can continue those distancing measures that protect people who take public transit.
The province also announced that schools will be reopening on June the 1st. Meanwhile, in Ontario, it is set to reopen on Tuesday, including lifting restrictions on retail stores, surgeries, dog grooming, and driving ranges. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says the province can now gradually begin to open workplaces, but encourages people to continue to work from home as much as possible.
We're getting thousands of people back to work. We've laid a solid foundation for our economic reopening and recovery. We have the framework. We have the workplace safety guidelines. We have the capacity in our healthcare system. And today, I'm ready to announce that this Saturday at 12:01 a.m., private parks and campgrounds, marinas and boat clubs, golf courses, and businesses that board animals will be allowed to open. And on Tuesday, May the 19th, we will enter the new stage, stage one, in the reopening of our province.
Christians in Pakistan and India are being denied food and aid right now during the COVID-19 pandemic. As we hear in this next report, there are some groups who are fighting the good fight of faith to help provide for their brothers and sisters in need.
Many Christians around the world are being denied food and other aid during this COVID-19 pandemic because they aren't a part of the majority religion in countries like Pakistan, India, Indonesia, and Christian refugees in the Middle East. But their cries for help are being heard. Dominic Sputo leads a ministry to persecuted Christians called Lumen Life and is a partner with the Voice of the Martyrs Canada and other ministries who are bringing food and supplies to these especially vulnerable followers of Jesus at a time when their very survival is at stake. Due to security issues, we can't be specific as to where these distributions are taking place. Dominic explains who's at the highest risk right now.
Primarily from the day laborers. You know, they work today to eat today. They don't have a refrigerator or pantry to store food. And so with the lockdown, they haven't been able to work, and they're in day 40 of the lockdown, and many of them have been without food for a week or two. And sadly, it's to the point now where reports coming back is they're dying and they don't have access to food. And in some of those countries, if they go out to try to get food, the police literally beat them and force them back into their homes.
I mean, this is heartbreaking, and I'm, hearing the stories from, people that I know on Facebook. Some I don't even really know that well, but from countries like Pakistan, India, and other places, they're really suffering. So how have you been able to mobilize and to try to help in some of these situations?
Well, we have direct relationships with churches in those countries. And here in the U.S., we formed something called the Alliance for Persecuted Christians. And through the Alliance for Persecuted Christians, in the last 4 weeks, we've been able to raise $625,000 and have provided a 2-week supply of food to 210,000 believers that had no access to food. That's roughly $3 a person for a 2-week supply of food. So we're talking about very basic needs met here.
Great to see Christian organizations coming to the aid of other Christians around the world. A beautiful long weekend is shaping up. Lots of blue sky and sunshine is in the forecast. Complete weather details are coming right up. Another gorgeous day in southwestern Alberta today. Tonight there's a slight chance of showers developing with a low near 6 degrees. Tomorrow the clouds should clear out and we should get up to about 22 degrees. Mainly sunny with 22 again on Sunday. Victoria Day holiday Monday, expect a mixture of sun and cloud and a high of 21. Tuesday mainly cloudy with the mercury dropping to 18. A low pressure system moves in Wednesday bringing clouds and showers and a high of 15. Thursday more rain is expected with a high of only 11. Looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 18 and an average low of 4. The highest temperature in the state was recorded in 1944 at 30 degrees, and the record low was a chilly -2 in 1938. Sunrise was at 5:46, sunset at 9:09. Let's see how tomorrow's shaping up across the country now. Expect showers and high of 15 in Victoria, BC. Rain in 18 is on tap for Vancouver. Just a few clouds and 20 for Calgary on Saturday. Mainly sunny and 22 for Edmonton. Just a few clouds and 23 for Regina tomorrow. Mainly sunny and 25 for Saskatoon. Lots of sunshine and 20 degrees for Winnipeg. Sunshine and 20 as well for Toronto tomorrow. A mixture of sun and cloud and a high of 18 for both Ottawa and Montreal. In the Atlantic provinces, expect periods of rain at 15 in Fredericton, New Brunswick, showers and 13 in Halifax, Nova Scotia, a 30% chance of rain and a high of 11 in Charlottetown, PEI, and in St. John's, Newfoundland, expect light showers off and on and a high near 7 degrees for tomorrow. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is extending the federal wage subsidy for employees in businesses battered by COVID-19 for at least 3 more months. Trudeau says the idea is to give employers more confidence to resume operations slowly if they have to. The subsidy will run through till the end of August. It covers 75% of wages for employers that have seen sharp declines in revenue since the pandemic hit our country hard in March. The amount is up to $847 a week per worker. Taking Facebook quizzes may seem like a fun pastime if you're at home during quarantine, but the Better Business Bureau of Southern Alberta is concerned that you may be giving scammers your personal information by answering personal questions. Shauna K. Thomas is the communication specialist for the BBB in Calgary, and she says the questions that you're being asked for your bank account information are the same ones that are being asked for these Facebook quizzes.
Be careful of these quizzes. Before you take them, figure out where they're coming from, if it's a brand that you can trust, and not because it's being fun doesn't mean you have to engage in it. It may be coming from a friend, but if this information is on social media, it's in public domain, and so it's readily accessible by people who have other means in mind to use your information. Millennials are more likely to fall for scams, but what happens is that they lose less when they do fall. And that's because, of course, they may not have as much disposable income as or seniors who are less likely to fall, but when they do fall, they lose more money.
Now, speaking of Facebook, the company purchased Giphy, which is an American online image database company, today for a cool $400 million. Demand for Canadian telecom services has skyrocketed since the COVID-19 pandemic. Rogers Communications says home internet usage is up more than 50%. Voice call usage on its wireless network is up more than 40%. Toll-free calls are up more than 300%. The company says customers are making more than 50 million wireless calls per day, while the use of toll-free lines has augmented to access federal support programs during the pandemic. TELUS, meanwhile, says it is experiencing 4 times the network traffic during the COVID-19 pandemic. During a 2-week stretch in March, the company says its call agents facilitated more than 30,000 doctor's appointments since launching its virtual visit platform in April. Home sales in Canada fell dramatically last month due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Canadian Real Estate Association says home sales fell by more than 50% from the previous month, which makes it the worst April since 1984. Experts say the pandemic and the physical distancing measures put a chill on home buying. The average price of a home sold by a Canadian realtor last month was $488,000, which is down by 1.3% from April of last year. Most of Alberta has been given the green light by the province to reopen businesses, including stores, salons, and restaurants. But those in Calgary and Brooks were told that they must wait until May 25th because of the higher number of COVID-19 cases than in any other area in the province. John Gee of Calgary drove to nearby Airdrie to get his first haircut in 4 months.
Oh, my sister made the appointment. She lives here in Airdrie. I said, I need a haircut. She said, I'm on it. So she got me 3 appointments. This is the first one. So everything's closed in Calgary, so I came here. Well, Airdrie is way less cases, right, I guess?
Everybody's been quarantined, well, for the last 2 months and a bit. It's very busy. We couldn't get everybody in.
It's gotta be crazy.
Yes, yeah. We already have a lot until Saturday booked already, so people are still worried, but well, you know what? You do the best you can. We're taking appointments only, wearing masks, doing whatever we can.
Yeah, it does. It feels good to be back at work. Yeah, it's just a little hectic just the past because of the appointments and people wanting to come in. Yeah.
What do you think about the masks?
I understand the concept of it, but I don't like wearing it. You know what I mean? I like talking to my customers. I can actually be free to talk to them. You can breathe better. It's hot in it. But I understand the point of it.
Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 129 points on the day to finish at 14,638. The Dow was up 60 points to 23,685. The S&P 500 was up 11 points to 2863, and the Nasdaq was up 70 points to 9,014. Oil was up $2.20 to $29.76 per barrel. Natural gas was down 4 cents to $1.64. Gold was up $13.37 on the day to finish at $17.4367 an ounce. Silver was up 74 cents to $16.61 an ounce. Wheat is at $238 per metric ton, barley's at $235, canola's at $471, and corn is at $229 per metric ton. Live cattle were up $2.88 to $97.13, feeder cattle were up 93 cents to $125.43, and lean hogs were down 88 cents to $59.40. The Canadian dollar was down slightly on the day to 70.88 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the air ambulance service known as HALO, which covers Medicine Hat and Taber regions, is in dire need of funding. The group's CEO, Paul Carolan, says the COVID-19 pandemic has wiped out their fundraising efforts. He says they need $250,000 a month to survive and are calling on the province to fund this organization, similar to what the government does for STARS Air Ambulance. There are some people who feel that the province's Bill 10 is taking away some of our rights and freedoms. John Carpe is a lawyer with the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms in Calgary, and he explains in more detail to BCN's Jeanette Roche in just a moment.
The COVID-19 pandemic has caused various levels of government to impose restrictions in order to protect public health. But too often, we're hearing of cases where authorities are overstepping their boundaries and are arresting and fining people in a seemingly unreasonable fashion. Are our freedoms being trampled on? Our guest today joins us from Calgary, John Carpe. He's the president of the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms. John, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Glad to be with you.
John, so there is a place in Ontario called Aylmer, Ontario, and there's a church called the Church of God. It's getting a lot of attention for holding drive-in church services over the last few weeks, with police threatening to ticket them for doing this. So you have now served a charter challenge against the Aylmer Police Service and the Ontario government. Can you give us a bit of the backstory to this?
The church was quite eager to comply with social distancing requirements, and what they were doing is having a drive-in church service on their parking lot where people would stay inside their vehicles. And for unexplained reasons, the police continued to threaten them with fines. And this is after the police had been to a Sunday drive-in service, and they had seen that everybody was staying in their cars, and still there was the threat. And this is a violation of our charter freedom of conscience and religion. In a free country, you have the right to worship, and for most religions, that's worship outside of the house at a temple or synagogue or mosque or temple. And in this case, the pastor tried very hard to say, look, we're going to adhere to the social distancing requirements, but we're not going to stop worshiping God. So it's a continued police harassment that has brought us to the point where we're now going to go to court to seek a declaration that the worshipers are allowed to worship.
So just to clarify, it appears that no social distancing requirements were violated. So are the police or the government authorities claiming that some other law was broken then?
They're calling it a mass gathering because there is more than 15 cars. But it's you could also shut down the Walmarts and the Costco's and the superstores and all these other places because you've got more than 15 parked cars on a parking lot. So to insist on it being a mass gathering, this goes to show why our charter freedoms are so important, because there's a dark side to human nature that the free society reins in that dark side by saying that every citizen has these fundamental freedoms and police can't just trample on them. And now we've got this state of emergency, and you see police quite readily all over Canada are abusing their powers, which is sad. It's turned into a little bit of a police state.
Interesting. So we're hearing that some people are wondering if faith groups are intentionally being targeted. Do we know if there's any truth to this?
It seems odd that these kinds of restrictions are not being imposed on businesses, and the same when it comes to more than 15 people or more than 50 people, whatever number, more people gathering together. It's taking place in stores and restaurants. Well, restaurants not yet. We'll be back to that. In Alberta, there was a situation where the government told the church that even though they were live streaming, they couldn't sing in church even though they were live streaming. In the other Alberta government guideline that's come out is that if churches resume services, then the cars on the parking lot must be parked 2 meters apart. Well, we know that COVID can't go through glass and metal. So whether cars are parked, kind of the normal 2 feet distance or whatever it is, or whether they're parked 2 meters apart, I mean, it's become really ridiculous.
I would say so. I mean, what are they going to impose restrictions on traffic lights now too? Because we're not all 2 meters apart when we stop at a red light. It is ridiculous.
Well, in a large city, in a downtown setting, in the summertime, there's lots and lots of people on the street, and they cannot all be 2 meters apart. The Kenny government in Alberta has actually requested that churches start recording the names of people that go to worship on Sunday and keeping track of the parishioners, the congregants, which I would hope pastors would not be so foolish as to fall for that, because it's only in a very police state. There are terrible historical examples. The government has no business keeping the names of people who are going to church, and that the government would even think about that and using pretext of medical contact tracing. But this is very, very dangerous, because a lot of people everybody loves good health. Everybody wants to comply with ways to get good health. Everybody wants to save lives. Everybody wants to prevent deaths. Okay, fine. But now we see the government is abusing that to strip away our rights and freedoms, and it's extremely dangerous, especially when the Kenny government suggests recording the names of people who go to church.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So there's another case in Edmonton where back in April, a street preacher and a couple of his friends were passing out pamphlets. Police said that they had received complaints and later issued a $1,200 ticket, even though, once again, they seemed to be more than 2 meters apart. Is there more to this story?
The Edmonton police have been targeting street preachers in Edmonton for years, and even before COVID. It's the same old, same old. Somebody would dislike the content because they don't like the pamphlets or the flyers, they don't like the preaching. It's a message that not everybody wants to hear. And they would complain that it was offensive, and then the police would come along and issue a ticket for violating a noise bylaw. Which was not based in fact, because they would not issue a ticket to somebody else that had a far louder microphone and was maybe playing a guitar or something. And then we would plead not guilty, and then the Crown prosecutors would withdraw the charge. And that's happened over and over and over and over again, that somebody complains because they don't like the contents of the preaching, and then the police come along and issue a noise violation ticket. And now what's wrong with that is police are not supposed to be robots that just hand out tickets the moment that they hear a complaint. I mean, police ought to assess for themselves whether the ticket is warranted or not and go through that thinking process, because it is an inconvenience to have to fight the ticket, even if it's withdrawn later. And we're going to have to take a look at challenging these measures themselves. That's another important aspect, because the politicians are reacting and panicking to reports by Dr. Neil Ferguson of Imperial College in the United Kingdom back in mid-March, who said that 510,000 people in the United Kingdom would die, and that as many as 2.2 million Americans would die. And when the politicians heard that, they panicked and they imposed all of these measures. But now that we're into the month of May, we've got some hard data, and the hard data on COVID shows that the number of deaths is in the same range as the annual flu. Now, it doesn't mean that the disease is, more unpleasant or uncomfortable, but if you're looking at the death numbers, the COVID numbers are not larger than what you typically get in any country or province or region for the annual flu season, which kills elderly people every year.
That's so interesting with the numbers there, and it seems that, like you said before, that politicians as well as police officers have kind of been using this pandemic restriction as an excuse to use excessive force and to make unreasonable arrests. So what can citizens do to make sure that the offending officers actually get the proper discipline to ensure that others aren't treated that way?
One thing is to file a formal complaint against the police officer that has issued a ticket that is unfounded. And in fact, we're filing some police complaints right now against these police officers that had no basis for arresting and humiliating somebody and giving them a ticket. So you can do that. You definitely plead not guilty. That's very important. If you get a $1,200 ticket, plead not guilty, and you will be informed of a trial date. But there's a very high chance that the Crown prosecutor is going to withdraw the charges. So you have very little to lose by pleading not guilty. And the worst thing you can do is just pay it and move on. It doesn't cost anything to plead not guilty. And then even if later on there's a trial and you're found guilty at trial, you're no worse off than what you were on the first day.
Interesting. Okay, so tell us about the legal challenge that you have launched against the Alberta government with regard to Bill 10, which apparently allows health services across the province to share confidential patient medical information with police. Can you explain the whys and the hows of this?
Back on March 31st, Jason Kenney's United Conservative government introduced Bill 10 into the legislature. They rushed it through. It became law 48 hours later. And what it did is it gave cabinet ministers, including the health minister, the power to write new laws on the fly without any input from the Legislative Assembly. And this is a brand new power. It's never been created or used or exercised anywhere in Canada. And there's a reason for that. The legislature exists in part to hold the premier accountable. Parliament exists to hold the Prime Minister accountable. And so the Jason Kenney's government changed the law to allow cabinet ministers to get up in the morning, decide in their own subjective view what they thought might be in the public interest, and draft new laws. And then these laws don't get debated in the legislature. Nobody finds out about them until they're announced. And so it's a very, very dictatorial power. And with the technology we have these days, I mean, you can have MLAs meeting by Zoom or Skype. The government has not answered the question, why do you need these new powers? And so now they've actually made use of it. So first they passed the law to give cabinet ministers that new power to write laws on the fly without any scrutiny or oversight from the elected representatives. Then a few weeks later, they used that power, and they've authorized the chief medical officer to turn Albertans' confidential medical information over to police forces without much guidance on that, which is a massive violation of the privacy rights that people have. So they've actually used the power to do that without legislative oversight. By the stroke of a pen, they're giving confidential medical information to police forces across Alberta.
Wow. And I'm guessing that government authorities would argue that this is just a temporary thing and then that it's justified by the need to protect public health, right? But you have some concerns as to how this personal information could potentially be misused. Just because we live in a democracy, I guess it doesn't mean that we should just blindly trust our governments.
Well, it's like if I sent you an email and I said, but you have to delete it after 30 days. Well, what if you don't delete it? I can't unsend it. I can't pull it back. So once confidential medical information has been handed over to the police, how do you know the police are going to destroy it? How do you know they're not going to accidentally leak it? How do you know that they're not going to get hacked? And this was done again. There could be potentially. I know that the police were concerned that in some cases they claimed that they were getting coughed on by people, and there obviously if there's a concern there, we need to address that and look at ways of how do we deal with that. But instead of in a very thoughtful way looking at the problem, looking at options, talking about it, thinking about it, you just get a cabinet minister by the stroke of the pen. Gives police forces access to all Albertans' medical records just with a stroke of a pen. It's not thoughtful, it's not planned, it's not careful, it's not cautious. This is what you get when you've got Jason Kenney's government just making laws on the fly, and it's the antithesis of how democracy should work.
Wow. And then we are moving from Alberta to Saskatchewan. The Saskatchewan government putting up restrictions on travel in northern Saskatchewan. It seems like a bit of an overreach. Can you tell us about that?
In Saskatchewan, the chief medical officer said that people in northern communities could not leave their homes to enjoy the great outdoors and go hiking and biking and canoeing. And this is another one of these absurd. It's like the police in Ontario telling the church that they can't have a bunch of cars parked on the parking lot for drive-in service. If we're supposed to be social distancing, then what better way to do it than to be out in the woods by yourself? And this leads to a very tragic aspect of the lockdown, which is that it seems that the chief medical officers are not giving any serious thought to the negative health impacts of the lockdown. If you lock people up in their homes for 2 or 3 months and frighten them to death with crazy exaggerated numbers of deaths, which are not materializing at all, and if you really frighten the people, then it's not going to be good for their health if they're not getting exercise, if they're not enjoying sunshine. We need vitamin D from sunlight as part of being healthy. Being outdoors, getting some sunlight is healthy. So it's very disappointing to see the chief medical officer issuing that edict. And then it's race-based because Aboriginals are exempt from that. But if you're not Aboriginal, you're not allowed to go and enjoy the great outdoors and go canoeing and hiking and walking and biking. So we've written a letter demanding an explanation and a reversal, and no response yet.
Wow, interesting insight that you have there, John. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on your show.
We are living in some highly unusual times. Many people express concerns as to how to stay healthy. It's an important time to keep a healthy immune system. Joining me now via Skype is Dr. Krista Coombs, a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, registered acupuncturist, functional medicine practitioner, and owner of AcuPlus Wellness Clinic here in Lethbridge. That's quite the mouthful. Welcome back to BCN, Dr. Krista.
Thanks for having me, Hal. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, this is a time of anxiety for many people, especially for those who have already compromised immune systems. Now, you specialize in helping people like this.
I do. I would say the majority of my practice is made up of patients that have immunocompromised systems, so autoimmunity and other chronic diseases like diabetes.
Now, we don't have a vaccination for COVID-19 as yet, but you believe this is a good time to start getting healthy so that we're prepared for whatever may come next?
Absolutely. I think anytime's a good time to start working on your healthcare. But right now, and during the pandemic, where everybody is very stressed and the heightened stress response that could turn out to be very chronic long term, and looking into going into next fall where we'll enter another flu season, stress is just going to begin again. So because stress can decrease the strength of the whole body, including the immune system, I would say focusing on some things that you can do on your own to keep it very strong and resilient will help even with all the extra stress.
Now, you've put together a list of some self-directed tools to support our immune resilience. What's at the top of that list?
So the top of that list, I would argue it's kind of a tie between two. So that would be sleep and rest, and nutrition and hydration. So they're both, I would say, pretty equally important. Can't live without either one of them.
Yeah, proper sleeping, eating habits, and exercise, that's all vital, I know, to living a long and healthy life. Now, Dr. Krista, is in the nutrition category, are there some specific supplements that can also help fight off viruses?
Yes, we can. I don't know if we can fight off the virus. What you're trying to do is you're trying to support your entire body. I mean, everybody's talking right now about boosting the immune system or even supporting the immune system. Absolutely. I mean, there's some validity to that. But the immune system is not separate from the rest of the body, right? All your systems work together. So we're trying to support the entire body. I think nutrition is the first way to do that. We want to encourage you. You eat because you need to live. You don't eat because it's fun. It's fun because you need it to eat, to live. So food is first. Hydration is up there as well. And then supplements to support immune resilience would be top of mind. Vitamin C for sure. Lots of reasons for that. Vitamin D is a number one. Zinc is a big one. Vitamin A. The antioxidant vitamins would be my top choices. There are natural antiviral, antimicrobial herbs that you can use, like even garlic. Eat with a lot of garlic and turmeric, ginger. They're really well known for their properties. But then there's other ones like astragalus or, my gosh, there's mugwort, and there's a lot of different herbs that as a herbalist I could be prescribing if I wanted to. But ultimately, unless you're really sick, you really need to be working on your food, and that will help you long term.
Why is getting the proper amount of rest vital for good health? I mean, do we still need 8 hours a day? And the reason I'm asking that is I know a lot of seniors who only sleep 4 to 5 hours every day, and they seem perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I think as we age, your sleep requirements do change. Sleep is it's a pretty interesting topic to study. Uh, Not everybody needs that 8 hours of sleep a night, but you find out what your balance is, and I would argue that probably between 6 and 7 is the average for most people at different age groups. And you need that because your body needs a chance to recuperate after a day of just like, they're like little mini yous. They're eating and sleeping, metabolizing out their debris and eat and drinking, and they're doing all the things that you as a macro individual does. And to get rid of all that debris through your circulatory system and your lymphatic system, and then expel it, you need time to do that, and sleep really provides that benefit.
Another powerful tool for good health is an interesting one, emotional management. What is that all about?
So I think this is very, very important, and I think it's not talked about enough in the media at the moment. And that would be more emotional expression and using mindset practices to keep you more resilient, just to be able to navigate, whatever's going to come at you. It could be this pandemic, it could be losing your job, it could be a divorce. I mean, it could be just about anything. So you don't crash and crack under the pressure. Learning, safe and appropriate ways to express yourself is powerful. Right now, everybody's very stressed. I mean, I see it constantly in my practice. People are say, "Oh, I've got to stay upbeat and I've got to do this and got to do that." I don't know. I think if you need to cry, cry. If you need to laugh, laugh. You need to get something off your chest, get something off your chest. Do it appropriately and give yourself a time limit. And then reframe, reframe, reframe. Have something that knocks you out of that negative or even positive and helps you kind of maintain a more even keel. That is incredibly important.
So bottling up all those emotions is not necessarily a good thing, like a lot of us
Never.
guys like to do.
It's never a good thing, Hal. So any way that you can express it, it could be through exercise. I mean, it doesn't have to be one-on-one with somebody. It could be through, doing yoga or qigong or just going for a beautiful walk in nature, hug a tree, watch a funny movie, watch a sad one and cry and get out your feelings. Crying is incredibly cleansing. I mean, think about tears. I mean, all the things that come out in tears. It's very cleansing, it's very therapeutic, but you need to give a time limit. And I think right now we don't want to be falsely optimistic and falsely happy and falsely feel the feels, but give yourself an appropriate time limit, an appropriate way to get it out. One of my favorites would be journaling. Keeping a gratitude journal can just knock you out of a negative state really, really fast.
There's no Major League Baseball. There's no Raptors basketball. So, yeah, it's really tough for a lot of us guys right now. Sports fans, period, I guess. To what degree does stress actually impact our health? What are some of the good ways of reducing stress? I mean, you mentioned exercise, but what else?
So, to your first question, how does it affect our health? Well, it's chronic stress. If you're constantly running from something that's making you fearful, your sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive constantly. Cortisol, adrenaline, just boom, boom, boom. Cortisol, it's in short spurts is very anti-inflammatory, but long term it's very inflammatory. So it creates more stress in the body. It can raise blood pressure, make other systems not work very effectively. For example, when you're in a heightened sympathetic nervous system response, maybe 10, 20, 15% of the blood flow goes to your digestive system. But when you're in that parasympathetic response, where you're more in that rest, digest, repair state, when that's happening, 50% of your blood flow can go to your digestive system and brain, actually. So trying to find ways to get yourself out of that chronic stress response as often as possible is ideal. That's where rest is really important, and movement and stuff as well. So I'm a big fan of meditation practices, but you could do moving meditation. It could be doing artwork or reading a novel, or listening to music is a great one, and moving around a little bit. Yoga practices, qigong, go chop some wood. I don't know, anything that's going to shake you out of that chronic stress response that's a win for me.
Opening up the Bible and seeing inspirational scriptures,
Absolutely.
very motivational. That helps
Prayer,
too.
prayer for uplift, like positive, reinforcement. I think that's and serving others. I think it's incredibly powerful because it shakes you out of that stress response.
Dr. Krista, the social distancing norm now is to keep 2 meters away from other people, about 6 feet. But I understand that physical touch is an important part of staying healthy. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in visual communication and being able to touch. We're an animal, we're very social, and we need that in order to stay healthy for our whole body, especially our immune system. So, how do you do that if you don't live with somebody, or if you're socially isolated, or you're in a home and you don't have much access? You can touch yourself. I know that sounds so odd, but you can do like dry brushing, or you can do massaging in creams, and you can do those types of things. And if you do live with somebody, you do get to interact with them in a safe manner. Do acupressure with each other, or do a little bit of gentle massage, or just hugs. Hugs are one of the most healing things you could ever do. And then from a visual communication perspective, just think, if we were just talking on the phone, I can't watch and see how you move and mirror your behavior and your smile and all those wonderful things. Do FaceTime or WhatsApp or Skype or Zoom instead of just a phone call, because we're just not around as many people anymore. Or if you're going for a walk, if you're still finding that you can do that, or you see your neighbor, smile, engage in that kind of communication. Just with your eyes, you can feel a lot from somebody, even if it's just a smile. You could be in the grocery store and everybody's so stressed, but smile, get that visual cue can really literally change your internal chemistry and keep you from being super stressed and reducing your immune resilience.
Now, you talked a little bit about vitamin D earlier, Dr. Krista. Why is daily sunlight exposure so important to our overall health?
So I'm not sure if everybody maybe doesn't know this, but in your skin, your body uses cholesterol in conjunction with the UVB rays from the sun, and it creates vitamin D, which is a prohormone. It's fat soluble prohormone. Vitamin D is essential for lots of things, but in particular, of course, bone and teeth health. But also, it's an immune modulator, a very powerful one. So if you become low in D because you don't have sun exposure, because maybe you're stuck like us in an office a lot, or maybe you don't have a window like I do, or you don't get out in the sun enough in the wintertime, or you live in an area where there's lots of pollution and it decreases the sun rays. And even just the higher latitudes like we are, most of the year, the sun's rays aren't hitting us very sharply. And so we still can't absorb those rays very effectively. You might need to supplement or eat foods that are higher in vitamin D, like fatty fish, egg yolks, mushrooms. But yeah, you need vitamin D for your food tolerance.
I'm a big fan of mushrooms, especially with my steaks. Now, when we're inside for long periods of time, how important is it to get good air quality? And how do we go about doing this? Cracking open a window, or what would you recommend?
This one had me worried very much from the start with all the self-isolation, because people are going to be stuck inside more. They're a little more fearful to go out and about. And if you're got a whole family or a group that are living together and you're not opening the windows enough and you got more carbon dioxide, you're cooking more at home, which a lot of people are doing. You've got off-gassing from pots and pans, more dust buildup. Make sure you just open your windows a couple times a day, get some good airflow, maybe have some good filters. You can get them all over the place, some really great ones. Don't be using air fresheners. I mean, people are using all kinds of cleaners right now to be overzealous with them, and there's a lot of toxic fumes that come with that you're breathing in and putting you at risk. You can change your furnace filter more often. Just anything that keeps the air quality down or improved is better for you.
Physical movement and exercise is always vital to good health. Any advice on properly doing this, especially for those of us as we get older?
Yeah, so if you have some mobility issues or you just, you haven't been active in a while, just pace yourself. Not not overworking out is better for you than or working out. You don't have to over excel. You just need to get some movement in, and just don't sit all the time. Don't just lounge in front of the TV constantly. Yeah, you can do some of that, but get up and walk around, do some housework, yard work. um, but people who are more immobile, you can do chair yoga, you can do stretching just with a friend in the chair. You can do it laying in a bed. Somebody can, just gently moving your legs, and lots of things that you can do. Yoga is probably and qigong are probably the top two that are very easy on the body that you can adapt for really any age, any mobility level.
It's funny, in my football playing days, I was an offensive tight end in football, and I'd be at the gym all the time working out. They say, no pain, no gain, push it harder, and more pain. Now that I'm a little bit older, it's more important to really listen to your body, isn't it? The no pain, no
Absolutely.
gain may not really apply as much as you get older.
I think the more body awareness you start paying, you have, the healthier you can be because you'll make better choices. You have to have a solid why for why you want to be well, and that mental state can help you navigate some of these new techniques and get yourself on a better path to immune resilience.
Tell me a bit about EMF and chemical exposures. What exactly is EMF, and what kinds of chemicals should we really be concerned about?
So EMF is the electromagnetic frequencies that are being put out by anything electric. So cell towers, your cell phone, anything electric, your computers. I mean, right now, most of us spend a lot of time in front of computers anyways, and we have Wi-Fi. So if you're suddenly spending more time in front of the TV or more time in front of these machines, there's more time talking on the phone to friends and family because you can't see them. having a time limit on that, setting some boundaries, I think is crucial because it can really, there's a lot of studies, there's hundreds and hundreds of studies showing damage from these rays when they're in abundance. You could turn off your Wi-Fi at night. You can even get things online that will automatically turn them off at a certain time at night. On your phone, I mean, everybody who has a phone has the ability to decrease blue light coming from the phone and set it up on the phone so that it reduces the blue light exposure if you're on it after, say, 10 p.m. Or wear blue light blocking glasses while you're watching TV in the evening. You'll sleep better. EMF is such a big deal. Chemicals, though, are another huge one. Think about PBA and plastics. Even just going to one of the cafes and grabbing a mug with the plastic lid. All that hot liquid is dripping off that plastic into your coffee. So you're drinking plastic constantly. Lowering your load of chemicals from pesticides on food, buying organic. Think about even the hand sanitizer people are using. Pay attention to what the ingredients are. A lot of them have triclosan in it, which is a carcinogen and a well-known one. Just make sure that it's 60+% alcohol, and you probably got a good one. Not a lot of scent. Overusing even essential oils can be damaging to the body. So just look at even cosmetics. Just look at how much load you're putting on your body. The less of that you have, the easier systems can deal with whatever crisis is coming its way.
Dr. Krista, before I let you go, quickly share with our viewers the online link you have to a free download of your top 10 self-directed tools to support our immune system.
Absolutely. Thanks for letting me do that. I really wanted to be of service at this time, and I'm trying to give away as much content as I can. So I came up with this very long PDF for free for everybody to go through and find out what they can do today. Pick a few of them and just whatever resonates with you, and boost and significantly increase your immune resilience so that literally you can get through this, not worry about just getting a vaccine, because a vaccine is not necessarily a cure. You want to be able to interface with your regular day-to-day and get through this and years down the road. So go to my Facebook page, AcuPlus Wellness Clinic, and you'll see there's a free link right there if you scroll a little bit, and have access to it, share it, read whatever you need. If you need advice, just drop me a line and I'll help you out as best I can.
Sounds great. Dr. Krista Coombs, Doctor of Traditional Chinese Medicine and registered acupuncturist with AcuPlus Wellness Clinic here in Lethbridge. Thanks a lot for joining me today.
It was wonderful. Thank you very much, Hallie. I hope you do well. Stay safe.
You bet. You too. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless. Thanks so much for watching.